I made a call to an officer, a local officer earlier, asking if, is there a case where my friend could be helped? I don't want him forced into anything because that's not what we should do, but we should try to help get him somewhere where he could live a normal life, where he doesn't have to move into his car every so often and then live part-time in hotels. So they definitely can help. She said, yes, we have tons of options for him, but the first thing you got to do is start a case. I said, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I didn't have a problem starting a case. I just wanted to make sure that there were options outside of forcing him into something. I didn't want you to muscle him into somewhere and, him be deprived of his freedom or something. And they thanked me. And then they recommended a place called Independence Village. And that guy actually answered the phone. I've called some of those type places, and nobody answers the phone, and nobody calls you back. Now, I know they're swamped. It's kind of... I know people in modern Christianity see it a certain way, and maybe, spending all that money to get a president in makes sense. But we have all these homeless people. We have all this money being spent on elections. And, I've spent money on the wrong thing in my life. I'm not here to tell you that I haven't. But, it's got to be, when we speak about Jesus, we kind of lose focus on the reality. All the money spent on all the politics of abortion and everything else. Instead of getting out there and maybe figuring a way to spend that money more direct. Oh. See, when my back totally releases whatever it's doing, I think it might be connective tissue. And I've had a thought of that in the past. But when it releases, then it all kind of goes away. My legs are weak at that point, but then I think they would rebuild over time. They just can't go through this cramping cycle. Just got to get this right side. I mean, the left was fully cramped at one time. And it released. I just got to get the right side to do it. Which makes it look like inflammation and muscular. Now, I'm not telling you that there isn't something in my spine that might be screwed up. But when your left side is loose and your right side's tight, that could be a neurological issue, but it could also mean that once that right side is uncramped, the spine realigns and then everything is hunky-dory. So we should have done an upper back MRI so we'd know. If I could just be comfortable, and I don't want to be all drugged up. So if I can get the back to release, I'm comfortable, more comfortable. And then hopefully it can heal somewhat. But again, I call a million doctors and it goes off in the wrong direction. At least it appears that way. I was just too beat down and tired to get anywhere. Like I said, if I had somebody with me, I could have made some more phone calls and could have had them trying to make the doctor's appointments. I should have told my friend to call his pain management guy and see what he would do. But I have a physiatrist, a well-respected physiatrist appointment next week, which is also a pain management guy. I was hoping to schedule the MRIs today, but haven't received calls back. That's kind of messed up that chiropractors can't order MRIs from Medicare, because I think that's putting patients at risk. Because they're limited in what scanning they can do. So what do you do as a chiropractor if you have somebody come in and you're looking at an x-ray and it looks like it's okay, but there might be something that's on the MRI? So again, Medicare is causing medical risk. Because essentially that's what my chiropractor says. He said, I think we need to get MRIs of your upper back first before we get to anything else. Because now he's saying the upper back's something. Because it is on the x-ray. Again, in Tyler, when I said upper back to my doctor, when I said upper back, mid-back to my doctors, they should have said, well, let's MRI that part. But when you're in their head, beating them down, blinding them, because right now I can't even see what my legs look like for the last 3 years. I can't even think of it, which means I couldn't even see it. I'm trying to think, well, what condition were my legs in? I don't even know now. But I know when I got to Oklahoma, I was still well. And again, this could all be a result of being in an overly allergenic community where I needed to move somewhere else. But of course, if I'd have gotten massage therapy straight through like I was in Santa Fe when I came out of this last time, I'd have been fine. I didn't leave massage therapy voluntarily. That was a scam to put me out of it, to bring me to this point where I would be bent and broken again, because that's what they want. They're anti-Christ. I don't care how many times they go to church. I've told you that. I don't care how they tithe. I don't care how sinless they are or how they sin less. I really don't care. They're working anti-Christ operations. So I think that would negate any church operation that they were engaged in, whether they were in close or not. And no, I'm not telling you to do anything bad against the church or do anything bad against those people. Don't let them put that in your head. What I'm thinking is, if I put I was trying to just put the magnesium oil on the right side of my body and see how it works, but I think when I put the magnesium oil on the right side of my body, it weakens my left. It's kind of like taking, and another thing, I'm on muscle relaxers, so my left doesn't really need a muscle relaxer, but my right does. So I'm kind of stuck in this stupid place till we get the right to release. Well, they plan for me to be disabled worse. They can't stop their minds. They're sick. They're gone in the head. Now we have the idea, we know they murder U.S. citizens psychologically, but they're disabling you. How many U.S. citizens have been disabled by government employees? Of course, they're not American citizens then, or even members of the public at that point. They're just criminals, right? Quote unquote. The FBI court of what? Court of Antichrists. I'll tell you right now, the FBI will label you a criminal and you'll never have a normal life ever again. DHS will label you a criminal. You'll never have a normal life again. Marshal Service will label you a criminal and you'll never have a normal life again. And they'll do everything within their power to make you a criminal, including psychological torture, psychological warfare techniques, prisoner of war camp, and open community techniques. That's where my life went. They exist, 100%. They know what they're doing to destroy a person, to destroy a life, to disable people, to murder people. Now, can they save? Yeah, we see them in the news every day saving people. But that's not the litmus test. Because how many are they causing? This is the life that you all chose for this nation. Because you chose that life for other people. So they bring demons to your community to possess people into crime and immorality. And those same demons are free to roam your community and possess the other people, including them at times. You'll find they have histories of what they tried to will on other people. Very unfortunate what's going on in this nation. But something's holding on my right side that I need to let go. It needs to be let go. And it's up in my upper back, my thoracic spine. I can feel it right now. As soon as I move my arm, I'm moving my spine with it. I mean, it could be an adhesion or anything. I mean, sometimes these things require surgery to release the tendon or whatever it is. Or connective tissue, whatever it is. I mean, I can move fine, I'm just not there. Or move well enough, I shouldn't say fine. I got pinched nerves, most likely. Doctors tell you one thing and then they do another. Doctor tells you to call them, then they don't call you back. Well, we'll call you. Told my first doctors about my back, and we'll worry about that later. Well, no, I think we need to worry about it now. Normally, I would have moved on. I was willed down. I don't know when later would be. Try to make appointments with other doctors. We don't do backs, this, that, the other thing, and you know, it's very limited. I don't know if East Texas orthopedics would have treated me any better, but I tell you, back then it was very difficult to drive, and it's still a little difficult to drive. So what's happened, I think, is my body has been crunched. I've been all tight for so long that when it releases, all my muscles need to be rebuilt, everything needs to be resized. But when it keeps cramping and releasing, the body can't get to that. Now, I'm hoping that's all she wrote as far as what needs to happen. But we still have to get to the point of releasing. You know, there also could be nerve damage in the left side where the brain thinks that it's actually transmitting an equal tension, but it's not. But when I get that right side to release like the left side, which is really how I'm supposed to be, and I, you know, for so long I don't even know how tight I was. They're in the head, man. And they're spiritual, but anti-spiritual. They're antichrists, devils, demons, witches, sorcerers. And you let them do that. Because why? You pay them a lot of money to be witches. That's the government, it's the private sector. Anybody else that's involved, that's who it is. It is what it is, remember that. It isn't what it isn't. Very simple, very clear, very concise. God is not mocked. I don't have to lift a finger to do things to you. Because God will do it. God is doing it. And you know, as far as getting into heaven or being this faithful servant, you know, if you're spending that much money on politics, I'm not sure what God will say. I mean, God's got to weigh it in the balance and say, you know, how much good came of that in reality. I mean, when you start reducing food stamps for people on disability, then we have questions as to whether any of that's real. I mean, I don't approve what the Democrats do either, because we end up giving them all the money and it never gets to the people that we provide the money for. But you'll say, well, doesn't that prove that there's some sort of system? I'll watch my feed here. There's some sort of system that, you know, political system that we need to finance somebody to do this, that, or the other thing. Well, on one hand, we could say, you know, Christians are Republicans, and that's great work, and we need to finance them, and we need to focus on them, so we need to elect a Republican. Then we could say, well, social work's very important, and it is. I've always told you that this nation was designed with a certain level of social requirement. Even a combined military that protects everyone is a social thing. Now, there's questions at what level that should be. When we get into the politics of healthcare, we find one side building a system that enriches their cronies, and we find the other side kind of minimizing the whole thing because their cronies really don't want that kind of healthcare for people. Now, there was a time when hospitals would actually do more, and they're required to care for people that don't have insurance. But it's kind of begrudgingly now. And I mean, I can give BSA at this point a high rating. Of which, wow, I was going to wander over there later and see if I can get them started on what's going on in my body, because I'm at wit's end. The only way to get anywhere when you're at wit's end is to go to the emergency room and hopefully find a good doctor. But I've heard those ambulances going in and out of that place all morning. One just whipped up the road to go pick somebody up. And then I guess in a little while I'll be whipping down the road the other way, taking them to the hospital. Well, I'm not totally selfish, or really selfish at all. I think it's so bad what the deep state does to me. I see a guy on a cane walking past that doesn't look like he needs a cane, and I'm thinking, is that a deep stater trying to mess with me? That's the psychological things they do to people. I know it's Satan, but is it a deep stater? Another psycho, man. They're psycho. But I know, you know, this thing has a mind of its own. My right side is still tighter than my left, which is really a concern. But like I said last time, they shot, you know, me with steroids, and the whole thing went like a, you know, just released like a deck of cards. That was it. Doctor told me stretch. When he did it, he said stretch, stretch. This time I stretched, and it kind of got somewhere. But I'm thinking most of this is my my magnesium oil this time. I thought the epidural did more than it did, because it's not a lot of steroid, very little bit of steroid. And the doctor in Florida I used, I'm sure he used more steroid than it did where I was. And then I had some additional steroid. And it got me out of it. And the idea is, let's get it uncramped, and then we can come back later and try to figure out the rest of it. I did my best to figure it out. Doctors told me they didn't know what it was. But when I got to this next point of it, I said, I'm going to go to massage 2 to 3 times a month for the rest of my life until the government destroyed it. And I'm almost positive it was the government, unless it was one of their cronies in the private sector. Because they'd already been around me messing around. Some demonic being just showed up in my room, and I pushed it away. I'm not sure what it meant, but that's what they had me do, the spirits. It's just a horrid time in our nation's history where they've developed a psychological Nazi Germany. You can put anybody you want in it. As long as you got the juice within the deep state, they'll do it. As long as you got a political donation for some, they'll do it. I mean, this is the world we live in, man. The real world's over. You may be living in a real world. You may have a real life. But it's very limited. Very limited. But it's getting smaller, isn't it? That real world's getting smaller. Not much left, is it, all of you? But you still know that you got more real world than everyone else, right? Or do you? Let government employees do what they did to me and hire people in the private sector to do what they did to me is past corruption. I mean, that's downright criminal. Now, you're not to do anything acting out towards other people or the government. You just give that way to God. God will handle all problems. In the end, if it doesn't happen to him here, it'll happen to him in hell, or maybe both. I mean, they're going to hell. I mean, don't show me the church membership they were allowed to have. Don't show me that. Show me the church membership that everybody's supposed to have equally, without the government interfering. See, that's the problem. There's an illusion going on out there. Again, you always stay peaceful. You give God the way. That's why the Bible says it. That's why they have these prayer patriots and things like that. That's kind of phony. They're out there beating somebody up the other day. You're not supposed to confront people in that manner. That causes strife. God says, it's an abomination to cause strife. Now, I know Jesus was in the temple, but he wasn't beating up somebody for prayer patriots either. And he overturned the temple and he said some things. That's how you're supposed to do it. All of your people needed help, psychological help. All the people that were coming after me needed psychological help. They really did. And you'd care less, could you? Because you could use them on other people to take out other people. Care less, because they're the witches that you hire, the devils, the demons, the antichrist, the witches, the sorcerers that you hire to murder U.S. citizens with spycraft and spellcraft. That's the real world. That's the real world. Not what you all say it is. All that money that you spend on politics and political campaigns instead of reaching out to people. You know, that money could be spent to house people. And feed people. Well, maybe God will take away elections in this country one day. And just use all that money to feed people. Government's sick, man. And it's getting sicker. Not saying anybody should shoot a police officer, but you lost protection from God, all of you. Because you're doing such things to me that cause these disabilities and other issues in my life. They're just sick, man. They know how they harm people. They know how they just keep going until they're laying dead in dirt or arrested for some crime. They're the sickest pieces of garbage that the country has ever seen. And you all worship them and pay them very well. Like I told you, there's the demon hierarchy that you can watch on YouTube. They have a demonic personality hierarchy, and some of them are Christian. I'm not saying President Trump's evil. I'm not saying Joe Biden's evil. But there is an evil out there. And it exists. And it's doing what I say it does. Can't get my back to work out today. Not releasing. Well, I mean, to a certain degree, it's not jacked up like it's been, but I can't get that middle piece to release today. On the right side. There it is. It's the world you wanted for me. The day you interfered with my massage therapy, that was the day you wanted this day for me. If not before, quite honestly. The time on earth is short compared to the time of forever. And you've all miserably failed. And you've all miserably failed. No matter who President Trump is or Joe Biden is, the government as it is, the employee structure is antichrist and personality worship. Nothing left, man. Government's gone. Nation's fallen like a deck of cards. Or like dominoes. Gone. Poof. Nothing left. Well, praise God in all that you do. Praise God.